Greetings, dear ones. As you know, February is set aside as Black History Month, and it's been our tradition here at Christ Lutheran Church to celebrate. Tonight, I'd like to lift up the story of Thomas Andrew Dorsey. Thomas Andrew Dorsey was born in a small town in Georgia, July 1st, 1899, to a minister father and a piano teacher mother. He taught him the instrument. Dorsey left home to become a professional session musician, much to the chagrin of his parents, and he began studying formally at the Chicago College of Composition Arrangement in order to obtain union scale wage as a musician in the city. And he found success as a performer and a songwriter and began penning songs about God and faith in the early 20s. In 1924, his knowledge of blues pushed him to organize a band for Ma Rainey. Ma Rainey, whose given name was Gertrude Pritchard, is often referred to as the mother of the blues, and while also continuing to record songs for himself. But something happened in 1932 that would forever change his life. In the following, I'm going to read to you a letter written by Thomas Dorsey himself. It's called A True Story. Back in 1932, when I was 32 years old and a fairly new husband, my wife Nettie and I were living in a little apartment in Chicago's South Side. One hot August afternoon, I had to go to St. Louis, where I was to be the featured soloist at a large revival meeting. I didn't want to go. Nettie was in the last month of pregnancy with our first child, but a lot of people were expecting me in St. Louis. I kissed Nettie goodbye, clattered downstairs to our Model A, and in a fresh Lake Michigan breeze, chugged out of Chicago on Route 66. However, outside the city, I discovered that in my anxiety at leaving, I had forgotten my music case, and I wheeled around and headed back, and I found Nettie sleeping peacefully. I hesitated by her bed. Something was strongly telling me to stay, but either to get on my way and not wanting to disturb Nettie, I shrugged off the feeling and quietly slipped out of the room with my music. The next night, in the steaming St. Louis heat, the crowd called on me to sing again and again. And when I finally sat down, a messenger boy ran up with a Western Union telegram. I ripped open the envelope, pasted on the yellow sheet with the words, "Your wife just died." People were happily singing and clapping around me, but I could hardly keep from crying out. I rushed to a phone and called home. All I could hear on the other end was, "Nettie is dead. Nettie is dead." When I got back, I learned that Nettie had given birth to a boy. I swung between grief and joy, yet that night the baby died. I buried Nettie and our little boy together in the same casket. Then I fell apart. For days I closeted myself, and I felt that God had done me an injustice. I don't want to serve him anymore or write gospel songs. I just wanted to go back to that jazz world I once knew so well. But then as I hunched alone in that dark apartment for those first sad days, I thought back to the afternoon I went to St. Louis. Something kept telling me to stay with Nettie. Was that something God? Oh, if I had paid more attention to him that day, I would have stayed and been with Nettie when she died. From that moment on, I vowed to listen more closely to him. But still, I was lost in grief. Everyone was so kind to me, especially a friend, Professor Fry, who seemed to know what I needed. On the following Saturday evening, he took me up to Madame Malone's Poro College, a neighborhood music school. It was quiet. The late evening sun crept through the curtained windows, and I sat down at the piano, and my hands began to browse over the keys. Something happened to me then. I felt at peace. I felt as though I could reach out and touch God. I found myself playing a melody, one I'd never heard or played before. And the words in my head, they just seemed to fall into place. Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am worn, I am weak. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. The Lord gave me these words and melody. He also healed my spirit. I learned that we are in our deepest grief when we feel furthest from God, that's when He is closest. And we are most open to His restoring power. And so I go on living for God, willingly and joyfully until that day comes when He will take me and gently lead me home. Thomas A. Dorsey, Gospel Songwriter. Among the 3,000 songs written by Dorsey, Precious Lord was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite song. And he actually requested that Dorsey sing it on the eve of his assassination. It never happened. But Mahalia Jackson did sing it at King's funeral. And 4 years later, Aretha Franklin sang it at Mahalia Jackson's funeral. Known as the father of gospel music, Dorsey had a great influence on a generation of performers, including Sam Cooke and Ray Charles, and James Brown, Little Richard, and Elvis Presley. Dorsey established the National Convention of Gospel Choirs and Choruses, and he served as its president for 6 decades. He was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 1982. He was the first African American elected into the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and the first African American inducted into the Gospel Music's Living Hall of Fame. His papers, including his writings and songs, are preserved by Fisk University. Thomas Andrew Dorsey passed in 1993. God bless you all. And in tribute, the second posting will be, Precious Lord, Take My Hand. God bless you all.